on serious mismanagement, political interference and unlawful appointments, some apparently aided by Muthambi. Meanwhile, it has been said that the minister intends to go to court to contest this particular report. To discuss this, we are joined in studio by Analyst Professor Sipho Seepe. Good to have you.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you very much for being our guest. What does the minister's intention to go to court actually mean?
Well, I think what we have in our democracy is checks and balances, where if there are adverse findings that have been made against you, you have a recourse to the courts.
Yeah.
And what the minister has put on paper to the speaker is to say she has concerns for both in terms of the process and in terms of the substance. But most importantly, she used the word that this was a witch hunt, a political witch hunt, and there's also a language of ambush that was raised. So I think going to court is probably the best way in which we can go to the heart of the matter. But most importantly, we must also understand that sometimes the court, and especially Parliament, has been found wanting a number of times, where it has been taken. And sometimes it's not so much that Parliament it does not have issues. But in a court of law, the process is also very important. The minister was invited. There was a mandate that was very clear to look into the fitness of the board. And the minister was invited as a witness. And later, she found herself no longer as a witness, but as an accused.
Yes.
So once you have the terms shifted, and I don't think the National Assembly gave the other committee a roving mandate that you can do as you please. So the minister feels that there was a shift from what was the original mandate to a mandate that other committee took for itself. But secondly, there was an issue of also the way the matter was conducted in terms of witnesses. Remember, in a court of law, what you normally do is that witnesses do not observe what others are saying to avoid where they copy each other. And in this case, you saw witnesses being like us, watching what this one says and looking at the posture of the committee, and then you found that there was more corroboration. It was almost like synchronized, so people could raise issues around that process. But there were also findings that was made that the minister wanted to centralize power, and one of the things that was used was the memorandum of incorporation. But it turns out that there were three versions of that memorandum of incorporation, because it started with the Dana Pule, then it came to Yunus Karim, then came to this current minister. But the offending clause seems to appear in all the versions. So if it appears in all the versions, you can't then zero it on this one. So there are issues of substance, and there are issues that have to do with the SABC.
Do you think that that it was a fair process, the ad hoc committee? Do you think it worked out fairly? I mean, seeing what came out of it and the minister's performance.
Well, I think we must not confuse the drama with substance. You know, one of the things that I was actually indicating, for instance, in a court of law, the reason why witnesses are not allowed to see other witnesses is to avoid a copycat type of evidence. You see here that was not observed. You also saw there was a real bias by the committee when you select people with an axe to grind as witnesses, and all of them, and what the submission of the SABC seems to suggest, that they were not questioned about their motivation for standing up, and which is actually good that people stand up. But there are very serious concerns that have emerged about some of them. Like some of them were involved, one of them is involved in fraud, and this person was witnessed, and the committee did not seem to deal with it. And when Ngubane came, it is I saw the Ngubane aspect, you could see that the committee was very hostile, because he was presenting a counter-narrative. So the notion of fairness must also be seen in terms of how you conduct yourself in terms of witnesses. When dead is thrown, you seem to welcome it. When there's somebody says no, but it's not like that, then you become hostile. So so that's not. We must look at the facts versus the drama. And then Ngubane was actually saying to the ad committee, beyond listening to the witnesses, it is important for you to go back to what he calls the minutes, the recordings of the board. But there's something that was very interesting. In the interim report that was given, the interim report made some statements about the minister, specifically to say she may, and then she may overtly and covertly have influenced, quite a number of things. And then she wrote to them. She said, "I see your report, and you're making a broad statement. I would like you to be particular about what is it that I have done wrong." And her argument is that even after asking for the particular details so that she can respond, the report was finished without her being furnished.
Okay.
So in the court of law, they would have said, but the person that you make adverse findings against has requested you to be as specific, so that because you can't
not using the word
yeah,
may.
and also how you move from may, then you come up with the judgment that somebody must be fired.
Let's have a look at what the President said in Parliament yesterday, again saying that you cannot jump to conclusions when it comes to the Minister Faith Muthambi. He still stands by her. We also saw the acting Speaker of Parliament mentioning in response to the Minister's letters that they have no power to overturn decisions adopted by the House. Is this making the Minister's case stronger as well?
No. I think the Speaker was correct. What she is saying is that there is a report, and the report has been adopted.
Yeah.
And she, even though the minister had written to her, she as a speaker, she has no power to overturn that. And the only cause that she has is because this has been adopted by Parliament, is to go the route that she has suggested, that I would like to have a neutral, unbiased platform. Yeah. For me to engage in these issues that have been raised. And I think for us, we should, it's good for Parliament also to be subject to that, for one reason, that in future, it will also raise its bar in terms of how it engages with the report. It becomes very embarrassing that every time Parliament comes with a finding and it's taken to court and it's found wanting.
Yeah.
I think we must not see this as antagonistic. We must see it as simply sharpening our processes, but making sure that we also do our job properly. Indeed. But what I'm raising, these are simply, it's not a suggestion that somebody is innocent or somebody is guilty. It's simply to say the court does pay attention to the notion of the fairness of the process.
Yeah. Just as we wrap up, it's 7 o'clock now, but this is one of our stories in the news, and I ask you to be very short on this. The interim board that's coming into the SABC now, do you think they can do much to turn this organisation around? There are reports all around. That's the interim board on the screen right now. Do you think that they can help? What do we expect from them?
Well, you must also remember that every time you have the board, there are all these promises, and I think they are selected carefully. There's something that happens, maybe the complexity of running a board, maybe the political influence that comes in. There's something that seems to contaminate even the best people that we put there. You could actually look at the previous board. Most of them were people who were chosen precisely because they have the requisite skills and experience, but they had failed to turn around this ship.
All right, we leave it there. Political analyst Professor Sipho Seepe, thank you very much for talking to us here on the program, all about issues facing the SABC and the Minister as well.